Good evening. Today is Tuesday, August 28th, 2018, and this is the regular meeting of the Rhinebeck Central School District Board of Education. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 14, 2018 special meeting Board Goals Workshop?
So moved, sorry.
A second. Discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 14th, 2018 regular meeting?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
I had set changes to Whitney.
You made.
They were made, yes. I didn't know if we had to officially announce them.
Excellent. As amended, all those in favor? That motion passes. It's unanimous. We now have a moment for public comment. Mr. Campbell, anything?
So
Can't do
moved.
that. Okay, so we move on to our reports and discussions. Consideration of Lower Hudson Education Coalition membership 2018-19.
Okay, so we actually had a discussion about this a few months back. Mark had given us a bit of a briefing, and then Laura and I received invoices for this service, which prompted a question from Laura, and I had already planned to put this on the agenda just to bring it to everyone's attention. Plus, I think you all got an email from Kelly Lappin last week kind of explaining that and asking people to support it and asking them to come to the first meeting of the Dutchess School Boards Association to hear about it. So, you know, people can do what they will. This organization has been around for as long as I've been here, and I'm sure before that. It's essentially an advocacy service that is sponsored by and supported by the school boards associations in the Lower Hudson region, Dutchess County, Putnam County, Westchester County, and across the river in Rockland County. I think those are the four counties that comprise that area. There's a superintendent's group that meets. There are the four different school board groups, and there is this advocacy group. We have not belonged to it, at least not in my, for most of my time here. I felt that, at least up to this point, and I stand ready to be convinced otherwise, but I haven't felt that we've been particularly well served up in this end of the frontier. I mean, not surprisingly, and you know, take it for what you will, it's been traditionally very Westchester County centric, and back in, I think it was 2000, 2001, there was a proposal at the time by Bard College to establish a charter school at Bard College. And this is when charters were first starting to be a thing in New York State. And we were concerned that, given the way charter schools are founded, that having a charter school in our own backyard, especially in an area that really couldn't claim to be underserved or poorly served by the local school districts, including Rhinebeck and Red Hook and some of the other schools in northern Dutchess County, that really wasn't something that we could support. And I did, at that time, and it's going back almost 20 years ago, bring our fight against that charter school to the Lower Hudson Education Coalition, and again, at that time, it got essentially no support whatsoever. So that kind of soured me on their advocacy for the entire region, for us as a member at that time, and couldn't see having us spend whatever they were charging for the dues then. It was probably $650 or $700 to be represented by a group that I didn't feel was representing us. Again, today's a new day. The person who ran that organization, she retired a few years ago, and the school boards associations in the region that I mentioned a few minutes ago have been working to jumpstart it and do things different and do it better. And if you would like to join sight unseen, give me that directive, and I'd be glad to have the school district write a check to this group. I remain skeptical about how well they will serve us, and they may serve us quite well. They have new leadership, they have new people working with them. They seem to have the support of the school boards associations in that four-county area, but it's a lot of money unless we're convinced that we're going to get any kind of bang for our buck. So that's all. I mean, and maybe Mark can shed some light on that. He's been involved in some of these conversations.
Yeah, so I would just add, we've had a number of discussions about the coalition at the Dutchess County School Board Association over the past several months. As Joe mentioned, I guess she was the executive director of the coalition, retired?
Yes.
Is that what her title
Yeah.
was?
And she was basically a one-person.
Right, so they decided to do something different, so they formed a steering committee, which Kelly Lappin, who's the executive director of the Dutchess County School Board Association, is the chair of the steering committee, so I'm hoping that we may get a little more attention from the organization, considering that one of their leaders is is from Dutchess County. We've heard a lot about what they plan to do. They, as I mentioned in the email from Kelly, that they've hired a lobbyist. They aren't going to hire, I guess, an executive director like they had before, so they're doing things differently. I'm not sure how I feel one way or the other about whether we should join or not. I was kind of hoping to kind of sit back and watch and see what happens, and whether the Dutchess County schools get support from the organization before making a decision on whether to join or not. And then we got the bill, so I don't have any strong feeling one way or the other whether we should join or not, so it won't offend me if we decide not to. There will be a presentation about it on October 4th, which is the first meeting of the County School Board Association, so if you're interested, I encourage you to come and hear what they have to say. I don't think they're anxious for everybody to pay their dues and join up. I mean, they'd like to have your money so that they can do their work, but I think if we waited till October and heard their presentation and then made up our minds, it wouldn't be a problem. So,
I mean, I'm willing to keep an open mind about it, but they're going to have to convince me that spending $875, there's going to be some bang for the buck. So I mean, I'm not totally opposed to it, but right now I don't know enough about it and how they're reconfigured and will operate, nor do I have a clue as to how well they will be poised to represent Dutchess County, much less the northern end of Dutchess County. So I'm prepared to be convinced that it will benefit the school district and our efforts to bring programs and services to our kids. Right now, I don't know nothing about it, and they don't have a track record other than a pretty lackluster one with different people, admittedly. For me to recommend that to you at this point, I can't. I'd like to at least learn more, if not observe what they do before jumping in. But So we're just bringing this to your attention so you're aware.
Lisa?
I don't have a vested interest in this. It doesn't, I'm perfectly willing to accept Joe's recommendation, although I think Mark's point is a good one, that since there's no urgency to making this decision, that we should probably give ourselves a little time, at least, see what their presentation has to say. I just would make, though, one observation, which is that whenever you have a situation where you want an organization to do something for you, or do something for a group that you identify yourself with, it's always an issue to hang back to see if they're going to help you, which kind of makes them think that why should they bother helping you if you're just going to hang back and you're essentially free riding. I'm not sure there's a good solution to that problem, because if we pay money and they don't do much for us, then we will have spent money unwisely, potentially. But if we don't spend money and we wait for them to do something for us for free, maybe waiting a long time. So I just wanted to make that point.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
I just want to make one observation, just to let you know, because I do know this organization when I was down in Westchester. I mean, it is a Westchester Center situation, and specifically it's a lower Westchester. When you think about it, there's 13 school districts in Dutchess, there's 6 in Putnam, there's 6 in Rockland. The other 52 or 53 are in Westchester. And of those 53, I'm going to say 35 to 40 of them are considered lower Westchester. So just be aware of what the power structure is to see if they can do anything for you. I mean, it's nice to see the Kellys on here, which is nice. You have somebody from the northern districts here. But if you look at it, it's almost all Westchester.
That's a good point.
So just be aware of it. So, I mean, I don't care one way or the other, but just be aware. It would be interesting to know how decisions are made there. Just for your own edification. I mean, I'm not saying pleasant, good or bad, but just realizing the structure of it and where the power is situated. So, like you were saying earlier, you put your money out there and you don't know whether or not how much of a say you get. Or even all of Dutchess. Or for that matter, Putnam or Rockland. So.
Anyone else?
What strikes me, and I'm new to this discussion, so I reserve judgment. I'd be happy to wait and hear. But in their introduction, where they say our counties are diverse, yet there's much more common ground than there are differences, I sort of wonder whether the common ground is stuff we have more in common with all the school districts in New York than specifically the Westchester, Rockland, school districts. I don't know how much we would gain. I mean, we're part of NYSBA, and that's important advocacy work. They do important advocacy work, but I don't know how much we have, where their argument is that we have much more common ground than differences, other than what all school districts have as common ground goals. Generic educational goals. So I'm inclined to think, I don't know what they would do, but I come to it open to hear otherwise.
Well, one thing that we're very similar with them, for most of Westchester, is our combined wealth ratio. They have the same type of state aid issues that we do. So I do see as that would be a nice partner to talk about tax cap and state aid, because we are in, Rhinebeck is in a similar position as Westchester. Not so much Hyde Park or Arlington being the same as them, but as our combined wealth ratio would make you look at it, and our state aid would look at it and say, oh, that could be a Westchester school district. So that is one area that I think they could help us. It would be interesting to see what their advocacy is towards.
That is a potential question to ask at this
Yeah.
Dutchess County Bar Association.
I mean, if that's their advocacy is for more state
Sorry, never mind.
and putting some tax cap type of legislation in there, then yeah, I could see that being very helpful.
Yeah.
But if it's, not, that's where I see a difference, how we could mesh with them. But
Well, it might
good to
be-
see what they say.
It might be worth hearing the presentation, going armed with questions of them, especially given their track record in Northern Dutchess, and seeing what they have to say and what their goals are. And then,
Yeah, I would agree.
does that feel okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we're just giving you a heads up. Mark mentioned that first meeting is on, what, October 4th? I'm planning on attending. Mark's one of the officers of the Dutchess County School Boards Association, but it's open to all board members, so if somebody else feels like going along for the ride, let us know.
Is it at Salt Point?
Yes.
Typically it is, yeah. Okay.
Great. Okay, we come to the designation of delegate and alternate to the 2018 NISBA Conference Convention.
Go right ahead.
All right, so for those of you who may or may not know, I think, well, every year that I've been sitting here, we've had a delegate and an alternate go to the business meeting on the last day of the NISBA convention. And they're voting on all sorts of things, new bylaws and resolutions, and Joe made copies of the amendments and resolutions for us to take a look at. But we've typically sent 2, and I don't think that's always been the case. It has been for the last 5 years.
We've tried to make more of an effort to send, you have a delegate and an alternate in case the delegate has to come off the floor for whatever reason. And the rest of us, while they're doing that, the rest of us are attending workshops and training and such, so.
And I think in the last 5 years, Mark, you've been our delegate. I don't know whether you're interested
I
in.
think I did it, I think 3 years in a row now. I'd be happy to do it again. It's very interesting, as long as the meeting keeps moving.
We do have good stories afterward. Is anybody interested in being an alternate in case?
Who was last year's alternate?
Deirdre?
Deirdre Delphi.
Yeah.
Mark is very reliable.
He is very reliable. Anyone else? I think we're all going except you, Liz, right? I think, yeah, so.
And the reason we ask now is because we should be getting in the mail any day now, a little blue form that we're required to fill out and send in well before the event happens, and they have some, they know who you are, who they're expecting to give credentials to represent the school district on the floor. It's also, I think, referencing the document that Laura mentioned a couple of minutes ago, which I think you all have at your places. If we're going to have representation, voting representation on the floor, then it behooves us to spend some time over the next couple of months looking through that, taking positions on those items that we feel strongly about. When we've done this, we've kind of said, yeah, we really need to vote this way on these are bad things for schools, or these are good things for schools, we really need to get behind them, or these don't really matter much to us one way or the other, so we don't have to get too twisted in and out over those. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in those bylaws and resolution books, but if we're gonna have somebody on the floor spending their time on our behalf, I think we should give them the information they need to go in there and vote in a way that addresses our needs here in Rhinebeck. You'll also notice further down on the agenda that it's one of the consent agenda items, I believe. Yeah, that we have been doing this for the last several years, that we felt a need to give a charge to our representatives there to use their better judgment. Sometimes, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, things come up on the floor, amendments to these resolutions, and we don't have the ability to talk amongst ourselves. So those people who are representing us have to be able to kind of go with the flow and have a sense as to where we feel and vote their conscience. So we have given them, those delegates and alternates, that charge every year to say, vote your conscience if you don't have a clear direction from this board on every item that may come up in that session.
Okay, so I don't see lots of hands going up. I would be happy to be the alternate
Okay,
if necessary.
that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you both.
Okay. All right, and we're moving on to board committee reports.
Wait, before we move on, though, so are we
Yes,
just
I'm sorry.
going to review these and then talk about them before, as we
Yes,
get closer?
thank you.
Well, yes, I will put NISBA amendments on the agenda every board meeting between now up to the convention, and if there are no items that people want to discuss, so be it, but we've done this in past years, and at least one person says, I think this is one we should support, or I think this is one we should do everything we can to make sure it doesn't pass. So it'll just be a rolling agenda item for the next several meetings.
I'll just say, I did look through the resolutions, I didn't read them thoroughly, but there doesn't seem to be anything particularly controversial in there this year, so I don't think it would be too heavy a lift to decide what our positions are.
We might be able to get through the whole business meeting too. There aren't that many of them. All right, so yeah, if you guys can just sort of travel back and forth with these so we don't have to make more copies and we can speak from a document, that would be great. Okay, unless anybody has anything else, we'll go on to committee reports, which are 9, I guess.
Yes.
In here somewhere. Long-range planning. They're pretty brief. We're planning for the next Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, which I think we've set for
17th of
the
September.
17th of
yes,
September.
Monday night.
And we're going to try to remind all of the members about the parameters and the focus for the group. We really want community input on how to prioritize the allocation of resources and what kinds of innovative programming we can introduce to continue to support strong education in Rhinebeck, given our financial situation. We're also going to share out with them this list on the minutes of, things to consider, how they feel about class size, electives, and those kinds of things. So I think Steve Jensen is putting together a Google repository of all of the documents we're going to share, links to the website, so that I think everybody will have access to that, so you can follow along as you like.
Yeah, if I could just mention, Tom has put together quite a few documents with data. Most of it's the financial, kind of the hard nuts and bolts of it. And right now I'm just waiting for Steve to get that set up, and as soon as we can dump those documents in there, then I'll send an email out to all the members and say, here's where the documents are that we posted so far, here's how you get into that. He's using a different tool than Google Docs that he thought it would be easier for people to use. It doesn't matter to me as long as it's easy to use. So I mean, I'm hoping to, a little luck, I'm hoping to do that by the end of this week and put that stuff out there. But we have quite a bit to upload, but I want to be able to upload the whole kettle of fish and then tell people, hey, here it is, go, knock yourselves out, and we'll see you on the 17th. So,
Yeah, I think given the volume of the documents, it would be better to do it sooner
Yeah.
rather than later.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right. And then we wanted to speak to the folks at Haldane who have already gone through a long-range planning process. Do we have enough? Our next meeting is tomorrow, so.
Yeah, I spoke with Julia today. She had been on vacation until yesterday, but then I was on vacation yesterday, so we were both back today. So I did talk with her. She's too busy getting ready, going back to school, and I'll talk to you tomorrow about our meeting, but it was a really good conversation.
Oh, good.
She does want to work with us, no doubt about it. She wants to, but some things we need to talk about that aren't for public.
Okay.
And we're scheduled to meet ourselves tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, yeah.
At 8:30, I think?
Yes, correct.
Okay, great.
And then we spent the balance of our meeting working out the language for goals for the long-range plan, so, which we're gonna discuss shortly, so that's it from us. Anybody have any questions? No? No? Okay, so we can move on. All right. We have an opportunity for good news. Anybody have any good news? Did anybody notice the driveway? It's patched and beautiful.
I'm glad somebody noticed.
It's my favorite thing about the last 2 weeks.
Get through the winter.
I know, that's what I was thinking. If you didn't notice, we've also done quite a bit of tree work.
Yeah.
On this campus, we had a few widowmaker limbs off the big tree out in the front and over the driveway, and another tree, a large tree that kind of going down towards the hill. That was split, and obviously we don't want that to fall on any cars or kids or anything. So we brought tree service up here yesterday, and I mean, they need a bucket truck to do much of that work. It was pretty significant work. So that's been done, as well as actually we're both here together, the tree guys and the blacktop guys were here, but that's done. They're making some pretty good progress on the installation of the new phone system and the new access system. So I believe that we're going to cut over the phone system this Friday here in this building. Chancellor probably not until sometime next week. They're still wiring Chancellor for the phone system, and I think we're ready to use the access control system. We're kind of playing with it this week. I was playing with it right before the board meeting.
I think the biggest thing with that one is getting everybody's cards and all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's a big
yeah,
heavy lift
yeah.
that he has to do.
We think we're gonna have them by the time the staff comes back on Tuesday, and we'll give them out then. But we're running parallel systems until we do that. Then once everybody has their cards and they all work, then we'll cut over the old system, and pull that stuff out of there, and just go with the new system. So we're making some good progress on it.
Are all those cards being programmed here?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if there's a problem, they can be
Yeah.
programmed here. Okay, good.
Cards are expensive.
I think that is really good news, the new access system, that is a response to concerns about safety, and, you know, that we're going to have that up and running soon is,
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
it's
absolutely.
important, so, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other good news? Old business?
Yeah, I mentioned one item of old business, and Whitney, you can help me on the date. I think I have the date right, but we are going to be hosting Dr. Hooley on, I think it's September 25th. Do you remember? Or if you're only guessing, that's okay, because I might have the
The
letter.
second
here, but I-
Tuesday in September? Or, I mean, the second meeting.
That was the end of your.
Yeah, let me just double check that. So they have put together the promotional material, the instructional material. We asked when they came to talk to us about the funding part of it. Yeah, September 25th at 7 p.m. They will be here with a presentation that they're estimating will be about a half an hour to give us more detail on what they're planning, and then their vote is scheduled for December 11th, if I'm not mistaken. And we had quite a conversation about where to have them locate their polling area. And of course, it all, it kind of dovetailed in with the discussion about school safety, and I think we're going to, right now our plan is to set up again, we don't anticipate thousands of people coming in to vote, I know we don't get that for our own votes, but we're planning on setting a table up right in the front foyer, inside the door, so we have, they'll have to buzz in and state their business and go over to a table and, they're just checking one box, yes or no, and then back out again. We thought that would be the best situation as opposed to having people, wandering all over the building. And if we did it in the district office, then we have an issue with handicapped accessibility, so that's our plan right now.
And will it be in the afternoon after class?
Yeah, do you remember it was 12 to 8 or 12 to 6? It was noon, I can't remember, it starts at noon, but I can't remember if it was 6 or 8 hours. I think it's 6 hours actually, I think it's just 12 to 6.
I'm not sure.
No, I think it might be, because remember,
You're 12 to
we were
8?
worried if they needed, if I had to be there, so it was a board meeting, so I think.
Right, you, up to 8 then?
Yeah, so it was overlapping.
So we'll have more information on the project next.
But it doesn't start 6 in the morning like a lot of the
No.
schools. I think, pretty sure it started in the evening.
Yeah, it was later. Yeah.
All right. Any public comment? Seeing none? Thank you. And any other? Mark?
We talked already about the Dutchess County School Board Association meeting on the 4th of October and the presentation about the Lower Hudson Education Coalition. I also wanted to bring to your attention, if you didn't see it in the calendar that came out last week, that we are planning to do a legislative breakfast again in January. The tentative date is January 12th, so you want to mark your calendars. If that changes, I'll let you know.
That's my birthday.
Do they have a potential location for that, Mark?
I would bet it'll be at the Marriott again, like it was last year,
Uh-huh.
but we haven't really gotten that far into
Okay.
planning yet.
Thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, I have two, actually. One, I was with the Rhinebeck Science Foundation at their board meeting last night, and they talked about a project with the 12th grade English teachers, Sarah Wheeler and Ed Lackey, about InfoChat, where they're going to spend a lot of time with the students working on a project that's going to be research-based on some of the careers that they might be interested in, and then do some research on the career, build a list of questions to interview a person that's in that profession, and then write about it and follow up with them in email and stuff. Sounded like a really good type of project that hits a lot of different competencies, so it was pretty good. The second one is we're starting to meet again as committee groups, and one of the audit committee charters is to have a public person, so I need to figure out how that process gets moving and how we get that going.
I think that usually there's a posting, a public posting for people to submit an application or resume. That's what happened with me and I think with,
With Paul,
Paul.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, we developed that application, so.
So is that something Whitney would do, or Tonda, who does that piece?
Can we just use that same application and
If it's
send it out?
Where does it go?
Pretty
Does it go in the paper, or?
Can we email it to
Yeah, we
the
put it in the
parents?
postal
and then-
office, and, same place we post our
John Pumpkins.
job
I
postings.
remember
too
we
late
did
to
it as a press release for maybe papers to pick it up, but I
didn't
mean,
get
that's not
mine yet.
typically something
Yeah,
that
you
they're
know,
gonna
should
publish
be
or
this
something. I think we email blasted it out to the parents we had, and I think we gave it to the town to post themselves. Because ultimately, what you're looking for is somebody in the community who has a business background. I mean, that's what they were looking for in a public person, is business background in your local community. Finding a local auditor, to find a local, somebody who's done it before, is what they're looking
Can reach
for.
out to the chamber.
But I can look back to find out
I'm sure I have all those
how long
documents
ago
still when
that
we develop them.
occurred. Yeah, I know I have the documents, I'm just trying to see about what date that was around, so I can check to see if I can find, yeah, it's probably too late. School Messenger only keeps like 2 years, and it was more than 2 years ago.
If you need it, I'll,
Okay.
let's check in about it tomorrow at Long Range Planning, because
Okay.
I can pull it up for you if you need it. All right. Any other?
Maybe this is a good time to talk about the tax collection procedures.
Yes. As we got closer to, tax collection, as you know, is coming up here next week. We've had a series of meetings with M&T, who's doing our lockbox, and as they did last year, but we wanted to direct more, or everybody there. And it wasn't a couple weeks ago, we were told by the manager of M&T, the branch, that they could only accept cash from their own customers, that they could not accept cash from a non-M&T customer. So we said, well, what do we do in that case? And so we called our attorney, and our attorney says, you have no choice. You have to collect at the tax collector's office. You can't send anybody away. They always have a right to come to the tax collector. Even though you have lockbox, you can encourage them to do it. You can really want them to do it. You can continue and give them all sorts of advertisement, but they can show up on your doorstep and say, here's my money. You don't have a choice about it. The only way you can get around that is to locate the tax collection office there. Unfortunately, our tax collector is busy during the day and can't be up there, at least this year. It's something maybe to consider for future years, but this year we can't have that. She does accounts payable and transportation. Can't be doing that up at M&T, especially the first couple of weeks. So so there is going to be some traffic, but we're going to try to cut it out. And one of the things that we're going to do is you can only enter through the district office. You cannot go through the school. The only time we'll allow that is if you're handicap accessible, and we will come down and get you and bring you down and that. But if you come in the front door, you'll be asked to go out, go around the corner, go to the district office. So nobody's coming through the school at all. They may be asked and told to go around the corner to go to our way, but we're going to definitely encourage everybody to, first of all, the best way to do it, mail it to the P.O. box. I know it says Buffalo, but that's where our lockbox is, and it gets deposited that day. Or if they don't mail it, the next best thing to do is to drop it off at M&T. Or you say you can mail it to us, but we're just going to turn around and mail it to M&T in Buffalo. Actually, it's a courier service. So we'll do everything possibly, and we hope that over the years, we'll get most everybody out of here. But we know a lot of people, they pay in cash, and if they're not M&T customers, we have no choice but to accept them here. No choice. Yeah, that was one thing I thought, oh, geez, yeah. But we can't do that until our tax collector is located out of that. And when I was at another school district, that is actually what we did, is our tax collector was part-time, and that's all she did. So we could put her anywhere, and that's what we did, actually put her in the bank. And so she was able to work from there. We'd like to do that, but unfortunately our tax collector has other things, and it is 100%, she's sitting there doing tax collection. It's not like it's a daily, there's periods of time where it gets busy, but we'll do everything possible to make sure our taxpayers won't be coming through the school, to keep them separated from our students. But that will be a big help to begin with. But we don't want anybody to come through the school. But unfortunately, we have to have some people.
Tom, will notice be going out in the tax bills
Yes.
to explain this? Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, so our approach is we're trying to give them additional options to pay, and we'll make accommodation for those who need to pay here. So.
Any other?
I just thought of, at the end of the school year, the Communications Committee had discussed the possibility of sending out a get-to-know the older students questionnaire. Did anything happen with that? Was that something that can happen this year, or is that for a future? Did it really require more time with the
It
teachers?
didn't, but I'm sure we can still put something together, and it doesn't have to be before the first day.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Right now, what I'm working on, which for me, I think is is a higher priority, and those of you who are involved with that will understand what I'm talking about, is putting together some of the talking points for communicating, for parent-teacher communication. So that's what, I want to get that done before the open houses, so the teachers have that before mom and dad walk in and start walking their kids' schedules. So that's higher up on my list of to-dos at this stage of the game, but we can definitely do both of them, actually. There's no reason not to.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Then we can move on to our action items. Does anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. May I have a motion to approve the Board of Education's 2018-19 goals for the school district? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Steve?
Can we decide on a time of those follow-up kind of reviews? I mean, maybe it's something that we do every other month or something. I mean, we never really decided on the frequency of the follow-up.
Yeah, I think that's one of the many things we need to decide, including the language for the social emotional goal.
And well, so my question would be, yeah, we can and we should, but my question would be, do we want to report out on the same schedule for all of those goals, or do we want to have different schedules for different goals? That's, we can do it either way, but something we'll have to talk about.
So do we need to table this motion?
Yeah.
So may I motion to table?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes.
Table.
Tabling, I'm sorry, we're tabling 6.2. Okay, may I have?
Laura,
Yeah?
before you move on, so how are we going to conduct this discussion now? The motion's been tabled. So what's the proposal for how we're going to have a board-level discussion about this?
I would suggest that we have it before we move into executive session.
Oh, sure.
Okay, after we're done with the action items, is that okay with everybody? All right. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve as a final reading the adoption of the modifications to board policy 5250, student extra classroom activity funds management, and board policy number 8124, naloxone program. See attached.
Oh, so moved, sorry.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. May I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the 2018-19 revenue budget transfer in accordance with RCSD's Board of Education Policy 6150?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. So let's dive into board goals.
Before we talk about what we need to decide, can we just at least pin down what we've already agreed to? My understanding is that we're in accord on the first and the fourth goals, and potentially the second goal also. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. Does anybody have any questions or comments on 1, 2, or 4? No? Okay. So that it's...
I guess one question though would be, should we pick, is this the point to pick up Joe's question about reporting schedule?
For 1, 2, and 4, why don't we can set those and then go into this emotional.
Oh, I was gonna say, maybe we should finish like writing the third one, because how do we know how often we want to check in on it without it being written?
Well, we won't, but if we decide on 1, 2, and 4,
Yeah.
then we can concentrate on social emotional. All right, so long-range planning, given the fact that we report out pretty much every board meeting, but there will be other committees that are going to feed into the planning process. So do we want sort of a every 3-month powwow on long-range planning?
That
Is that
seems like a long
A long time
time between
between?
reports.
2 months?
Every other month, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Every other month?
Seems like technology should be the same every other month. 1 month is a little too short
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Technology every 2 months.
as well. Same thing
Also-
every other month for both, you know.
And if, I
Maybe-
guess if something happens that's worth talking
Yeah, it
about
doesn't
sooner. we can
preclude
move
us from-
on. Right.
This one will probably involve Steve Jensen coming, so knowing it ahead of time probably will help him out in his scheduling. And if we can alternate the two, long-range planning and technology, so we're doing one every month, right? So they're not both the same month, I think would be
That sounds like a
better timing
Makes
for
sense.
everybody getting home.
Right.
I'll also, I don't know how successful I'll be, but I'll also try, to the extent that I'm able to also stagger them so that, for example, they're not on the same night that we have our building principals here reporting. It's just, the more, we all know that the more reports we have on a given night, the more,
Yeah.
protracted it becomes. So I'll try to
That's a good idea.
move around so
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
maximum
Bunch of long nights.
breathing room. Yes, sir.
Well, if they're every other month reports, then
Yeah.
it should be pretty easy to do.
Yep.
Okay, and then negotiations, updates.
That's just going to be
I think that's
periodic.
as needed, right? Because we
Yeah, I
have
think
meetings to
personnel
report.
updates, everyone as
Yeah.
needed.
All right, so the social emotional goal. I know that folks wanted to talk a little bit more about what we're trying to accomplish here, so who would like to open that up? No one? Anyone? Anyone? All right, so,
Laura, I
Yeah.
just, at the risk of getting you mad at me, Diane, you were the one who said you thought we needed to talk about it. So what were your thoughts that were?
So when all of you said I
Triggered
agree,
that.
you didn't really mean it? No. That's fine. So when we talked about it originally, this is a goal that we, had last year. And last year, Joe and your staff collected data on this topic already. So that data has yet to be kind of put together and certainly not presented to us yet. So my understanding was that part of this goal was getting that done in the first half of the year. So the first part, when it reads, support the collection of data, that's probably already, I felt like that has already been done. So that's why that first sentence didn't really seem right to me, because I feel like that's already been done. The second sentence, that's fine. That was fully my understanding. And then the third, I'm not sure if it's a multi-year plan or not. I mean, I know we talked about implementing whatever changes we feel is necessary, but, for next year, so I'm not sure if it's multi-year or not. Might be. But that was the initial things that I thought were kind of wrong with that, or didn't sit with my understanding.
Does it make sense to, schedule, or at least, sort of soft schedule, when we would want to have the report? Because if the first part of this is already dealt with, we just cut it out.
Yeah.
But, one of the things that probably would make sense is to say this is when we would want to be reviewing this report, so that we can measure at least whether we have the report within that time frame. That's a goal that we can, a sub-goal
Right.
that we can.
And I think, if I'm wrong, we talked about, like, by November or something, maybe hearing, what the results are, if I'm correct.
I think that's based on my notes from our workshop. We wanted, based on the collection of data, we wanted to identify the issues that were causing elevated anxiety, emotional, social unrest, and coming up with a plan for how we wanted to address those things that had been identified. That, I think we talked about being sort of mid-year, and then how we're going to address those issues, what the implementation strategies were going to be.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems to me that there should be some language in here about, once we collect the data and have a chance to review the reports, what we're gonna do next to address whatever issues are uncovered in the analysis of the data.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, that's more now analyzing it, not collecting it, just.
Right. And, you know, presumably there's going to have to be some monetary support of whatever these new programs will be, so it's our job to support that based on the findings. I think we also talked about how we were going to be able to measure the success or not of the implementation strategies also, so I'm not sure how we wind that in there.
Maybe a way to address this is to say something along the lines of, in the first half of the school year, the data collection and assembly of a report to the board will take place, with that process to culminate before the winter break. And following the resumption of school in 2019, the board will work towards presenting by the end of the school year a draft recommendation statement for implementation of the recommendations that were assembled in the report during the first half of the year. And so, that gives you the multi-year plan, because as with, I think, the long-range planning goal, it's not clear that we're going to be in a position to implement anything by the end of this year, but we'll at least have a game plan for it by the end of the year. I guess if you're really moving fast, you can always try to start moving on to, accelerate that process, but, at least to have a probably achievable goal. First half report, second half plan the implementation.
Seems reasonable. What do you think, Jacqueline?
Yeah, slightly different point, I think that makes sense. But regarding the collection of data that you thought is done, I thought I remembered we discussed that last year's data was kind of setting a baseline, or one baseline, and it's just 1 year, but that we would continue gathering data.
Yeah, we're going to resurvey in the fall.
Resurvey the parents, are we
So-
going to resurvey everyone, or just the
It's
parents?
my
I
understanding,
think-
no, it's not just the parents. it's the
Everybody.
Parents
Yeah, we survey
who we
everybody,
did not
so-
get very
Okay.
vigorous data from, and we need to put a full court press on that. But my understanding is we'll do the same surveying that we did last year, again this year.
And part of surveying is also kind of assessing, because there's some things that have been put in motion already, so
That's
surveying can
right.
kind of work to see.
So to me, the first sentence feels like it still belongs.
Yeah.
Collection and assessment, maybe, rather than just
Yeah.
collecting it, because,
Or how about
Well,
putting
it's
the word
part of the collection
ongoing in
done
front of
to
the word
assess.
Yeah.
collection?
yeah,
Right.
I'm suggesting perhaps putting the word ongoing in
Yeah.
front of the word
Yes.
collection.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so do we want to wordsmith this now? Do you want to take another shot at drafting it at a computer and then shooting it out for approval? What do you, I think that's probably better rather than parsing every letter here. But
It seems it seemed to work on 1, 2, and
Yeah.
4. I'm just saying.
So let's
Um,
stick with what works. Is that
I
all right?
can
Okay,
support that, yeah.
all right.
I mean, there really isn't, you know, and again, when you look at this process over the last 10-plus years, there's not a reason why we have to adopt these tonight. So if it takes us another couple of weeks to wordsmith them and to bounce some emails back and forth, which again worked quite successfully in some of the wordsmithing for what we have here in front of us, that we're all saying, yeah, those work for us. Then if we do that another cycle with these thoughts in mind, we ought to have something before our next meeting that we can then just adopt the whole bunch and let's move on.
The other thing that occurs to me is that since, although we're not formally adopting the first, second, and fourth goals, we've indicated our intention to, when it comes to us for a vote, to the extent that it's useful, you can already start putting those out to the people you would put them out to say, this is the board's intention. We're still working on the third goal, but you can expect it coming down the pike.
Well, for the record, I have already reviewed these warts and all on goal number 3 with our administrative team when I met with them earlier today. And they know that they're still in development, but I wanted them to have an idea of what we're looking at doing, because they're going to be a big part of who's presenting what, who's working, you know. Obviously, Steve Jensen's going to be working on goal number 2. That's going to be his primary focus, not most of the other people sitting around the table. So he's now well aware of the fact that that's where we're going, and they know that goal number 3 was still under development, so they already know.
Okay.
I would be reluctant to put a less than complete list out to the staff at large.
No, I agree.
Because that's just not, I don't think that looks very good. I mean, we can call out the topics without getting into the details of how we're gonna work through that.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, because typically at the back-to-school day, we outline what we're looking at for goals, so as long as we just...
Yeah, I think use the main talking points. I don't think I haven't heard a suggestion that we change any of those bold-faced kind of topics. If there is, we should know that now. If not, I think we can lay them out. Before I forget, because I've already forgotten once in this meeting, with open house programs coming up, we have traditionally had board members speak briefly but pointedly at welcoming parents back, and when we had goals to put out there to share, we have done that, and we may in fact have those goals before, I think before the set of open, but it'll be just barely before them. The reason I'm raising this here is, I should have mentioned it earlier in the agenda, we need people to step up and volunteer. 2 elementaries, 1 middle school, 1 high school.
You have those dates?
Yeah, I should. I should. I should.
There's sometime in September, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And they're pretty rapid fire, as I recall.
Yeah.
When's the calendar, printed calendar coming out?
We should have it by the end of the week, and then we'll be taking it to our friendly neighborhood post office.
Yeah, but nobody has
Yes,
the
they are on the
calendar
calendar.
yet.
Who's got it? Well, they're actually on the web calendar, because I
High
put them
school
there
ones
about
are-
an hour
the high
before.
I was
school
gonna
ones
say,
there.
Oh, they've all been updated?
No.
I saw the high school
All the
one.
open houses are.
Okay.
But I didn't see
Because
the other
somebody
ones.
had asked me about
I
when
put them up-
graduation was going to be.
I put them up about an hour
That's
before
not
the
known.
start of this meeting.
That is not known.
I saw the high school one the other day.
All right,
End of the year.
so let's get to the district
That's a
calendar.
All right, so we can address that in
Yeah.
email too.
Yeah, all right, so I will send out an email to everybody with all the dates and we'll see about availability. Okay.
And while we're on that topic, just a reminder that we do have our staff returning to school for the start of the school year on Tuesday morning, and you're always all invited. Not every board member can make it every year because of work or other obligations, but if you are able to be there, that's great. You know, stop by around 8 and have a cup of coffee and some fruit or something less healthy, and you know, mingle a little bit and listen to what there is to be said. I'm not sure if you're planning on saying a few words as the board president. I mean, I'll give you an opportunity to weasel out if you'd like, but
I don't weasel.
just give me the opportunity, that's all.
I would be
It's
delighted
nice
to
for the
greet
staff to
everybody.
hear back from the board as represented by the board president, and we're, again, trying to keep it short, and we want to be in and out of there in around 45 minutes. So it's not like you're committing to sitting there for 3 hours.
And
a
then
day.
going over to the elementary school?
Excuse me?
And then going over to the elementary
No,
school?
that's
they don't.
right here in our
Oh, okay.
auditorium,
They break
and then
up
they
after
break up into
Oh, okay.
smaller groups in different locations. So please feel free to join us. We'd love to have you there. If you can't, we'll understand. If you're there, I will introduce you, not by way of shaming those who can't be there, but by letting people know who's there. It's important for board members who can be there to, you know, to show support of the staff.
So coffee is
pressure.
at 8, and what time does the
We try to
remarks-
start at
8:30,
8:30,
yeah.
like herding cats it is, but 8:30, 25 of 9, we want to start, and we're usually done by about
At the latest.
quarter after 9, sometimes earlier than that. I don't think there's any big presentation regarding the United Way campaign, so that ought to go, you know, there's no speaker or anything for that, so that ought to move along pretty quickly.
All right, so I guess if anybody who is coming could let Joe know, so he
Yeah, that'd be
knows
great.
which one of us has to get pointed out.
Yeah, but don't not come just because you didn't let me know. I mean, if
Okay.
something comes up, show up, and I'll be making the rounds with my little pad jotting down people's names so I don't miss anybody. I'm trying to find the dates.
Do you want the open house dates?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yes.
Cool.
All right. CLS K through 2, Wednesday, September 12th.
The day after our next board meeting.
Yes.
What time?
7.
Okay.
Buckley Middle School is the next day, Thursday, the 13th, and that starts at 6 o'clock.
It's actually, registration's at 6, the program starts at 6:30.
Yes, you're right.
Is that the same with CLS?
No,
Program starts
I
at-
don't believe so. They run
Yeah,
different kinds of
they-
programs.
They do
so-
7 o'clock.
Yeah, 7.
The following Thursday, September 20th, CLS, I'm assuming that's 3 through 5.
That is 3
Yeah.
through 5.
7 o'clock. And then the following Thursday, September 27th, is the high school open house.
Time?
It says 6:30 to 9.
13th is our
Yeah.
Actually, senior parent night. Oh, that's something different.
All right, so if you guys, I will send out just a reminder email tomorrow, but if you could let me know if you're available to do any of those, that would be great. All right. Okay. So does anybody have any other thoughts on goals or open houses or anything before we close the meeting? Okay. All right. Then,
Just want to, sure.
may I have a motion to move into executive session for the purposes of talking about the employment history of a particular person?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. How'd we do, Bill?